I'll leave at dawn." Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly as she folded the last of her few belongings into a worn suitcase. The small ranch house was silent except for the crackling fire and the faint whistle of wind slipping through the wooden walls. Clara Whitmore stood near the doorway, her back straight, as if she was holding herself together by force alone. This was not how it was supposed to be, not how any of it was meant to happen. 3 weeks ago, she had stepped off a dusty stagecoach in this lonely town with hope tucked carefully inside her chest. A new life, a husband, a home. Instead, she had found cold stares, whispered judgments, and a man who barely looked at her twice. Caleb Hayes, the rancher who had sent for her, now stood across the room, his jaw tight, his arms crossed like a barrier he refused to lower. He had not spoken for several minutes, not since she said those words. She lifted her suitcase, gripping it tighter than necessary. "I won't be any trouble," she added quietly, still not looking at him. "I'll be gone before sunrise. You won't even know I was here." That stung more than she expected, but she swallowed it down. She would not cry. Not here. Not in front of him. Caleb finally moved his boots, heavy against the wooden floor. "This ain't about trouble," he muttered, his voice low, rough from disuse. Clara let out a faint, humorless breath. "Isn't it? Because from the moment I arrived, it felt like I was exactly that." He didn't answer, and that silence said everything. She turned toward the door, her fingers brushing the cold metal handle, when his voice came again, sharper this time. "You don't know anything about this place." She paused but didn't turn. "I know enough," she replied softly. "I know I'm not wanted." Outside, the wind picked up, carrying dust across the yard, rattling the loose fence posts. The world out there was vast, empty, and uncertain. But staying here, where she felt invisible, felt worse. "You came all this way," Caleb said after a moment. "You're just going to walk out?" Clara closed her eyes briefly. "I didn't come all this way to beg for a place where I'm not welcome." Those words hung heavy in the air. Caleb ran a hand through his hair, frustration creeping into his expression. He had made a mistake. He knew it the moment she stepped off that coach, looking smaller than he imagined, but stronger somehow too, stronger than he was ready for. He hadn't expected her. He had expected someone older, maybe quieter, someone who would blend into the background, take care of the house without stirring anything inside him he had buried long ago. But Clara wasn't like that. She spoke with calm certainty. She looked at him like she could see through every wall he had built, and that unsettled him more than he wanted to admit. "You think I asked for this?" he said suddenly, his voice rising just enough to break the tension. Clara turned now, her eyes meeting his for the first time in minutes. "No," she said. "I don't think you did." Her honesty caught him off guard again. "But neither did I." That landed harder than anything else. He looked away, unable to hold her gaze for long. "This place," he started, then stopped, searching for words that didn't come easily. "It's not what you were promised." Clara's lips pressed together. "No, it isn't." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The fire cracked again, sending sparks upward like fleeting thoughts neither could catch. Finally, Clara picked up her suitcase again. "That's why I'll leave at dawn." She took a step toward the door. But before she could reach it, Caleb moved fast, his hands slamming against the wood just above the handle, blocking her path. The suddenness of it made her freeze. He wasn't touching her, but he was close enough that she could feel the heat of him, the tension radiating from his body. "Not alone." The words were low, firm, leaving no room for argument. Clara's heart skipped, her breath catching in her throat. "Excuse me?" He didn't move his hand, still braced against the door. "You're not walking out of here alone in the dark. Not through that land. Not with wolves and worse roaming around." She lifted her chin, stubborn. "I'll manage." Caleb's eyes narrowed. "You won't." Silence stretched between them, thick and charged. Clara felt something shift inside her. Not fear, not exactly, but something unfamiliar. She had expected indifference, maybe even relief from him at her leaving. Not this. "Why do you care?" she asked quietly. That question hit him straight on. He didn't have a simple answer, not one he was ready to say out loud. Because despite everything, despite the cold distance he had kept, there was something about her that didn't sit right with the idea of her disappearing into that endless horizon, alone. Something that felt wrong. "Because I gave my word," he said finally, though it wasn't the whole truth. "I sent for you. That makes you my responsibility." Clara let out a soft breath, almost a laugh but without humor. "I didn't come here to be someone's responsibility." "Too bad," he replied bluntly. "You are for now." Her grip tightened on the suitcase. "I won't stay where I'm not wanted." Caleb's jaw flexed. "You don't know what I want." "Then tell me," she challenged, her voice stronger now. "Because all I've seen is a man who regrets sending for me." That struck deeper than he expected. He stepped back slightly, his hand dropping from the door, but he didn't move away completely. "I don't regret it," he said quietly. Clara searched his face, trying to read the truth behind those words. "Then what is it?" she pressed. He hesitated, the walls inside him rising again, fighting against whatever answer tried to surface. He exhaled sharply. "I wasn't ready." The honesty of that caught them both off guard. Clara's expression softened just a fraction. "For a wife?" she asked gently. Caleb shook his head. "For anything that comes with it." The room felt smaller somehow, the distance between them no longer just physical. Clara looked down at her suitcase, then back at him. "That's not something I can fix." "I know. And it's not something I should have to wait around for." He nodded slowly. "I know that too." Another silence. But this one was different, less sharp, more uncertain. Clara's shoulders lowered slightly, the tension easing just a little. "Then maybe leaving is the best thing." Caleb's gaze hardened again, but not in anger, more in decision. "Not tonight." She frowned. "You can't just—" "I can," he cut in. "And I will. You stay the night. In the morning—" He paused, then added quieter. "We'll figure something out." Clara studied him carefully, weighing his words against everything she had felt since arriving. She didn't trust easily, not anymore, but something in his tone, something unspoken, made her hesitate. Finally, she let out a slow breath and set the suitcase down again. Not unpacking, not staying, just waiting. "Fine," she said softly. "One night." Caleb nodded once, stepping back, giving her space again. One night. The fire burned lower as the night stretched on. The wind outside howled louder, but inside something had shifted. Not settled, not resolved, but changed in a way neither of them fully understood yet. Clara sat by the window, staring out into the darkness, wondering what dawn would bring. Caleb stood in the doorway, watching her silently, a man caught between the life he thought he wanted and the one standing right in front of him. And neither of them knew that by morning, everything would begin to change. The first light of dawn crept slowly through the thin curtains, painting the room in soft gold. Clara hadn't slept. Not really. She had spent the night in the chair by the window, her thoughts restless, her heart heavier than she cared to admit. For a place she planned to leave, it had already begun to feel harder than it should. Caleb had stayed awake too, though he would never say it. He had taken the chair near the door, as if guarding it, or maybe guarding her from leaving before sunrise. Now he shifted slightly, rubbing his eyes as the silence of early morning settled between them again. Clara stood first, her movements quiet but firm. She reached for her suitcase, lifting it with both hands. This was it. No hesitation this time. No second thoughts. "I'm going now," she said softly. Caleb straightened immediately, his gaze locking onto her. "It's barely light." "It's enough." She moved toward the door, but before she could reach it, his voice stopped her again. "Clara." paused, her back still to him. "You don't have to do this." Her fingers tightened around the handle. "Yes, I do." "Why?" The question came out more urgent than he intended. She turned slowly, meeting his eyes. There was no anger now, only something deeper, something raw. "Because staying where I'm not truly wanted hurts more than leaving." Those words landed hard. Caleb stepped closer, closing the distance between them. "I never said I didn't want you here." "You didn't have to," she replied quietly. "You made it clear." He shook his head, frustration flickering again, but softer this time. "I was wrong." She searched his face, trying to see if those words held weight. "About what?" "About thinking I could just bring someone into my life and not feel anything." Clara's breath caught slightly, but she didn't move. "And what do you feel now?" For a moment, he didn't answer. The truth sat heavy on his tongue, unfamiliar and difficult, but he forced it out anyway. "Confused, angry, afraid," he exhaled. "And something else I don't know how to name." Silence stretched between them. Clara's grip on the suitcase loosened just a fraction. "That doesn't sound like a reason to stay." "Maybe not," he admitted, "but it's a reason not to run." She looked down, then back up at him, her eyes softer now but still guarded. "You think I'm running?" "I think you're protecting yourself," he said quietly. "Same as me." That truth hit deeper than she expected because it was right. She had learned long ago not to stay where she wasn't valued, not to wait for people to decide she mattered. But this felt different, and that scared her more than anything. "I don't belong here," she whispered. Caleb took another step, closer, his voice low, but steady. "You don't know that yet. And neither do you." "Maybe not," he said, "but I'd like the chance to find out." Her heart pounded at those words. A chance. That was more than he had offered before, more than she expected now. "And if I stay?" she asked quietly. "What then?" Caleb hesitated only a moment this time. "Then we take it one day at a time. No promises we can't keep. No pretending." He held her gaze. "Just try." Clara looked at the door, then back at him, the decision weighing heavily inside her. She had come here for a future, not uncertainty. But maybe uncertainty was where real things began. She slowly set the suitcase down again, the sound soft but final. Caleb let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "One day at a time," she repeated. He nodded. "One day at a time." The days that followed were not easy. There were moments of silence, moments of tension, moments where old habits tried to pull them apart. But there were also small changes, quiet ones that grew stronger with time. Clara brought life into the house in ways Caleb hadn't expected. She filled the kitchen with warmth, the rooms with light. She didn't force anything, didn't demand anything, she simply stayed. And that was enough. Caleb found himself watching her more, noticing the way she moved, the way she spoke, the quiet strength in everything she did. She didn't try to fix him, didn't try to break his walls. She just stood beside them, waiting. And slowly those walls began to crack. One evening, as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the land, Caleb found her outside, sitting on the porch, her gaze lost in the horizon. He joined her without a word, sitting beside her in the quiet. After a while, she spoke. "I almost left." He nodded. "I know. I'm still not sure if staying was the right choice." Caleb looked at her, then out at the land. "Neither am I." She smiled faintly at his honesty. "But you don't regret it?" He shook his head slowly. "No, I don't." That answer settled something inside her she hadn't realized was still unsettled. Weeks turned into months, and the ranch began to change. The fences were repaired, the land tended, the house no longer felt empty. It felt alive, and so did they. One night, as a storm rolled in, strong and loud, Clara stood by the window watching the lightning flash across the sky. Caleb stepped up beside her, close enough that their shoulders nearly touched. "You still planning to leave at dawn?" he asked quietly. She glanced at him, a small smile forming. "No." "Why not?" She turned fully this time, her eyes meeting his with a warmth that hadn't been there before. "Because I'm not alone anymore." The words hit him deeper than anything else he had felt in a long time. He reached for her hand, hesitating only a second before taking it. She didn't pull away. The storm outside raged, but inside something had finally found its place. No more running, no more walls. Just two people who had almost walked away from something real and chose to stay. And this time when the dawn came, it didn't bring an ending. It brought a beginning.